Okay, I'm just setting up the live stream. It's looking good so far. Okay, so this is the first of a series of live streams. I think they'll all be live streams, I'm not entirely sure. So we are going to circumnavigate the globe in the simulator. We're starting off from Oxford. So this is the first flight of the round the world trip. We're starting off from Oxford in England and we're going to fly over to Frankfurt in Germany. So if we have a look on LittleNavMap, we can see the map here with the route on it. So let's go and also open Navigraph so we can see progress along the way easily. So we're going to unload in here, import from Simbrief. I filed the flight plan with Simbrief. So we can see here Oxford to Frankfurt via VOR stations along the way. So it should take about an hour and a half in the air. So Maverick is already saying, can I put all of the flights into one playlist? Yes, that's a really good idea. So I'm still figuring out how I'm going to do this. We're going to put this on VFR mode in Navigraph. Okay, so if we go and have a look at the charts for Oxford, and we'll go and look at the taxi charts. So we want the... Well, that's the briefing. We don't want that. That will do. So we can pin that one. I think it's already pinned actually. And then for the rest of the route, if we go to flights and go to pull up the charts for Frankfurt. So we're actually going to a small airfield south of Frankfurt. So it's interesting. I don't think it's going to have any charts in here. No, that's a shame. So this is one of the downers of using Navigraph, to be honest. So Egglesbach is south of Frankfurt. So if we go and zoom in, because obviously we're flying a TBM 850, we have no business landing at the international airport. So we're going to come in to this small airfield south of Frankfurt called Egglesbach. Yeah, so we can see it obviously here on the map in LittleNavMap. So as we go on with this, I'm going to find a way of finding the plates for the smaller airfields. So obviously they do exist, they're just not in the likes of Navigraph. So I may have to go and make a purchasing decision about some other source of airfield maps, because it'll be good, you know, for the blog. I'm going to write a blog post for each leg as well, telling the story of the route and the planning and so on and so forth. So this is just a simple one to get us started, flying VOR to VOR along the way. So let's go and jump inside the airplane. So we are in the black square TBM 850. I thought this might be a good choice for some of the legs, but we'll be changing aeroplanes from leg to leg. So it should be good. We've got the Pilot Plus version of Oxford in the simulator. So it's a really, really nice version of Oxford. It looks very accurate. Although it's Kidlington, it's labelled in the simulator. Everybody here knows it is Oxford Airport. It's just outside of Oxford. Anyway, I think it's been rebranded in recent years as Oxford London or something crazy like that. Anyway, let's go and get the airplane fired up, shall we? So first things first, actually, let's go and make sure we got some fuel in the airplane. So we go into the overhead panel. So we've got 72 gallons. That's probably going to be on each wing. That's probably going to be enough, to be honest. This plane's got a range of about 1,500 miles. And we only need to go 400. So a third of its full range. I guess we can go to 75%. We'll give it more than we need just to satisfy our own paranoia. So we don't need a pilot. We don't need a co-pilot. So we don't have the weight of a co-pilot. We are going to use the TDS GTN 750 XI, I think it's called, or GTN XI. Navigation computer, which will give us nice data along the way and something to look at and play with. Let's just go and check the volume levels. So my volume level's fine. I've turned the sim down a bit so we don't get too much droning. Okay, so the crash bar is already up. So we're going to go and switch the batteries on, switch the generators to main. And then go and put the oxygen on, which is, you have to scoot around a little bit to do things in this aeroplane, although we're not really going to need oxygen. We're not going up to any altitude today. So Control 2 will take us down to the radio kit. So we're going to go and put the radio master switch to on. And you can see things firing up around the cockpit. So we'll continue on into here and continue past the database setup and continue. Okay, so fuel selector needs to go to auto.
TOS, system test OK.
And external lights, Control 5. The external lights, we want to go and put nav to on. It's a while since I've flown this aeroplane, so you'll understand if I'm a little bit rusty. We need to make sure we've got the correct control profile. So yeah, I'm using an MD-11 control profile at the moment, which will probably work, to be honest. But I think I've got one called 2 engines. There it is. Well, we actually want single engine, don't we? Single engines in here somewhere. There it is. Single engine with propeller control, or with, yeah, that would be better because the fuel control on a turboprop will be a bit mad. So there we get propeller control. We'll just check the throws. That's looking good. Because obviously with it being a turboprop, we don't really need to meddle with the fuel at all once we're in flight. Okay, so propeller goes to max RPM. Auxiliary boost pump goes to auto. And then overhead, we put ignition to auto, it already is. Starter to on. And then looking down here, we're looking for 15% on the NG before we advance the fuel condition to low idle. So it's just coming up to 10%. And then there's 15%. So we can then advance this to low idle, which will introduce fuel. The ITT will go shooting up through the roof. That's the inter-turbine temperature. And then it will fall back down. And then at 50% NG, which we're just coming through now, we can turn the starter off and move the fuel condition to high idle. Okay, so back overhead, we can go and turn the gyros on. And then on the instrument panel, so control 1, I'm following my own checklist here, by the way. So we're going to go and put the inertial separators on. And the EFIS master to on. We're going to set our initial climb altitude, so we're going to go to 2,000 feet. We're going to fly most of this route at 2,000 feet. We can get rid of the warnings. Set the barometric pressure, so I'll press B to shortcut that, and you'll see the altimeter spin around there. Press D to calibrate any gyros. I don't think this has any, it's all electronic in this aircraft. Okay, so Control 2 brings us back over this side, so bleed should be on auto. So here we go. And air conditioning goes to on. and set cabin climb rate so the arrow is up. So I think this is just this here. So we just want the arrow pointing upwards. Okay, transponder goes to standby. It is already on standby. On the autopilot, AP trims master to on or up. So AP trims master goes to on. Wait for test to extinguish on the MCP. So you can see at the moment it says test. So we're waiting for that to go out. Shouldn't take too long. We can get rid of the master again. Famous last words, of course. Okay, while we're waiting for that, the weather radar, we can go and turn the weather radar on at least. It's off at the moment, so we'll go and put it on standby. It does a self-test. There we go, the test has disappeared now for the autopilot. Okay, it's in standby at the moment, we'll go and turn it on. So overhead we can go and turn the taxi lights on now. So what complaints have we got over here? The pitot heats, the stall heater, the inertial separator is on, and the parking brake. So if we go and have a look at that. So inertial sep is on. We don't use the pitos until we get to the runway normally. So we're pretty much good to go. I haven't loaded the flight plan yet though, have I? So let's go into the TDS and go to flight plan and menu and the catalogue and menu and import, and we want EGTK to EDFE. So that's going to load the Simbrief flight plan into the TDS. So then we'll activate that, replace the current route, yes, come back out of here, go to the map, and we now have our route on here. So we can zoom in while we're taxiing around, give us something to look at on the map until we get to the runway apron. We are going to take off. We go and have a look at the wind for Kidlington or Oxford Airport. I've got it scheduled here to take off runway 19. So yeah, the wind is 210, 5 knots. So we want to go and do a right turn out of here. So parking brake off. Let's go and turn the head tracking on. Just increasing the throttle gently, and we're moving. A little look at Oxford as we come past. This version of Oxford's really nice. Some of the industrial park on this side of Oxford is part of the scenery as well. They've done it really well. London Oxford Airport. Yeah, there we go. They're rebranding it out. It's a bit crazy, isn't it? It's nowhere near London. Some bright spark in the marketing department thought that would be a good idea. Can you track the flight on Volanta? You certainly can. I am John Beckett on Volanta, and you can see it's actually running now. So we can see I am taxiing around the airfield, and I'm about to go down a dead end by the look of it. Or a dead end as far as the Volanta map looks. So feel free to add me as a friend on Volanta. I have got a Orbex, is it Orbex that make Volanta? I think it is, isn't it? They've given me a premium account to play with, and I've got party mode on it. So I can actually use the party mode and do live chat within Volanta. But you need to add me as a friend for that to become possible. So for future legs, if everybody goes and adds me as a friend on Volanta, obviously I'll accept all the friend requests. Okay, I think we have to backtrack, don't we? It's the only way to get down to the other end of the runway. Let's just have a look. Yeah, I'm just looking at the map here. The only way down... or can we cross and go around the other way? Let's have a look. No, we have to backtrack. So let's see what we can do about... Yeah, so if you go and add me as a friend on Volanta, I'll just... If I leave this party for the moment, if you just go and add me, I'm John Beckett at Volanta. JONBECKETT. I'm on the West Europe server, by the way. I've got multiplayer switched on, so if you did want to fly along with me, you're welcome to do so. So we're just going to spin round at the end of the runway, and then we'll get the aeroplane ready to take off. Do the last few bits and pieces on the checklist. Okay, parking brake on. So we're going to go and put the pitot heats on. We don't need any windshield heating. We're going to go overhead and put the landing lights on. Okay. So full power. I say full power, I'm not pushing it too hard on purpose. This plane's incredibly fast. So we're just coming up through about 95 knots, so let's begin gently rotating, and we're in the air. And gear up. So no flaps needed for takeoff on a nice long runway. Inertial separator can come off. And we're on our way to Frankfurt, ladies and gentlemen. So we're just taking off. So if we go and have a look on the map so you can see where we are. Okay, so if we do a slight left turn and fly over the top of Oxford on the way out, we can obviously correct our route a bit later. So we can see we're off towards the Compton VOR, which is just the other side of Oxford. So autopilot is on. Altitude hold is just about to kick in. We're approaching the altitude that we programmed into the pre-selector. I'm not going to go for heading hold just yet, so let's go and correct that while we're here actually. So we've got the heading knob here. I'm going to turn the head tracking off so I can do this confidently and quickly. So we're going to spin. Can we press this? Oh yeah, we can. So we'll put this onto heading mode. So the airplane's going to track the heading we're going at the moment. Let's go and turn the head tracking back on. Okay, the photogrammetry is looking decided. Oh, here we go. It's just updating now. I think Microsoft servers are on a bit of a go slow at the moment. That's a bit of a shame because Oxford's really pretty. Yeah, Microsoft's doing a horrendous go slow. So there's the football ground. Anyway, so if we were to say, what mode are we in here? We're in GPS mode. So if we were to say nav mode, the airplane's going to corkscrew right and go and rejoin the route out to the Compton VOR. So we can see we're 3 minutes out from it. 12 miles away. If we zoom in a bit further. We can see the remains of the Didcot power station by the look of it. I thought they'd removed all the towers by now, but apparently not according to the flight simulator scenery. Maybe they haven't. Okay, so we need to be careful of speed because we are not above 10,000 feet. So, oh, we can turn the landing lights off now, can't we? Taxi, whoops, taxi, landing, and there we go. Oh, we haven't put the strobes on. I forgot this has strobes. That's not in my list, actually. Or maybe I just missed it. So you can see the course marked in there. So we can bring the heading bug, whoops, round to meet it. And we're on our way to the Compton VOR station. Yeah, the scenery's working now. It wasn't working a minute ago. Okay, let's have a look at the engine instruments to make sure we're not cooking the engine. So we're looking pretty good actually, we're in the green everywhere. Propeller's fine. Torque is a little bit high, so I'm going to pull that back. Let's see if that's done any damage to it. Nope. We're good. Okay, so we can settle in for the journey basically. So we could play games with programming the VOR frequencies in as well on the way. So if we go and have a look at Navigraph, and we'll pull up the map here. We've got the Compton VOR 11435 is the one we're just heading towards, so we can program that really quickly in here. So 11435 and transfer it to active, and you will see this come alive with an arrow pointing directly at it. Do we get separate distance measuring equipment in this aeroplane? I'm not sure that we do. But we do get the radio stack over here, and we get the KX. Sorry, the KNS-80, which is an absolute masterpiece of a piece of kit. I've done videos about this. You can invent virtual VOR stations on it. So if we put in 11435 on this, And this aeroplane is a bit of a masterpiece, actually. On the buttons around the HSI, you can choose what you're showing. So at the moment, we're showing GPS. But if you I don't know if this will actually change the CDI mode. This will be interesting, actually. So before we do anything, we'll just put this on heading mode, just in case. So what we should be able to do is press HSI. Oh, there we go. Nav, RNAV, MLS. So what's that done to the autopilot mode? Yeah, it is changing it, look. Interesting. So GPS will make it straighten back up. Okay, so we would have to go to heading mode if we want to play with that. So let's go to heading mode for the moment. Did it change heading mode? No, it's just the gyros are going slow. So it's going to kick back left now. It's going back for the heading we've selected. But what I wanted to show you is RNAV. So obviously you can change the course as you wish. And we've got this tuned to the one behind us. But obviously I'm not going to get into it now, but you can go through the settings in this and offset the VOR away from yourself. You have to change the mode. Oh, it's in RNAV mode already, actually. But yeah, it's great fun. We might have a look at it as part of the trip at some point. If I put this back on GPS for the moment and go back to nav mode, and it will follow the track. Oh, the sim's frozen for the first time today. Great. So, yes, I'm using Tobii 5. I'm just looking at the live stream comments. When the sim unlocks itself. I noticed, I saw some of Two-Tone Murphy on YouTube the other day, and he had exactly the same pausing problem that I get. So I will be replacing this computer later in the year. It'd be interesting to see if I get it on the new machine. How are we doing on the torque? Yeah, we're at 90% torque. We could probably edge that up a little bit higher, couldn't we? And propeller, let's edge it up. Let's see how close we can get to 250 knots at 2,000 feet. Yeah, it's not going to go much for quicker than 200, is it? Obviously, if we go up into the thinner air at higher altitude, we go a lot faster, but then we lose the lovely landscape whistling by. Okay, so we're heading towards the Midhurst VOR now. So should we go and change the VOR? So we'll at least get the arrows pointing the right way. It's pointing directly behind us, look, because we're still tuned into the previous VOR. So we were tuned into Compton now. We're now flying the track from Compton down to Midhurst. So Midhurst is 11400, according to the chart. And this has spun around, look, immediately going straight towards it. Obviously this is reading GPS data to give us the distances. And we got a message here, some airspace alerts, nothing we have to worry about. So what's the airfield over to the left of us then? Blackbush. Okay. So Stratocast says, hello Jonathan, long time, first time. So is that a reference to the guitars? The Fender guitars? Maybe? I don't know. Hardly a cloud in the sky. I've wound the time to the morning, but obviously it would be dark in the UK at the moment. But I've pretty much set out my stall. Have I got the time on a clock in the cockpit here somewhere? Yeah. So this just shows you how things happen here. I actually set myself up at 9 o'clock, and then it was an hour and a half until I managed to get time to sit down and do the flight. So yeah, this evening, earlier, I set the time in the sim at 9 o'clock, and I didn't actually take off until gone 10. So there you go. How are we doing? So we can actually zoom in on this and zoom out and play around with it to our heart's content. It's a very, very good system. So if we were to climb to altitude, we could probably get another 100 knots out of this aeroplane, but we'd have to climb up to like 20,000 feet to do it. So obviously in the thinner air, this plane will go absolute gangbusters. It's really, really good. We never put the transponder on, did we? But to be honest, we're not using ATC, so I've managed to just switch it off. We're not using ATC, so it doesn't really matter. I guess for some of the legs, obviously some of the oceanic crossings, I'm going to have to go and use one of the big planes to do that. But yeah, when I do some of the IFR flights with the big planes, it would be interesting to use air traffic control, wouldn't it, with one of the AI solutions. Yeah, I might well do that. That would be good fun. So 845 Sim is saying check the fuel left and right tanks. I've got the fuel set to auto, so I don't have to. But yeah, I appreciate the feedback though, to have a look. So you'll see it down here. When it's on auto, it will flick left and right on its own. Obviously we can keep an eye on the tanks anyway. But yeah, it's good to know. I love the systems depth in this aeroplane. It's got so many things you can go playing with. Should we tune in some other radio beacons? So we've got a nav 2. Oh, actually, no, that's the RNAV set, isn't it? But if we put this onto VOR mode, I guess it becomes nav 2? Is that always? No, this would be nav 2, wouldn't it? So this is a separate device, all of its own. Yeah. So if we go and tune in something on nav 2, let's go and put something in so we can see some triangulation. We're about to make the turn at Midhurst. Where should we tune into? Seaford maybe? 11700. And you can see nav 2 is over here, or VOR 2. So you can play games now with spinning around the Omni bearing selector to find out the bearing from us to the VOR. Obviously the game you can play with this if you've never done VOR navigation. I'm not going to get too much into it today. Let's just make sure there's no hills in the way before we start messing around. If we spin this around, so we get this will go to from. Oh, went too fast there. It's got quite a fast acceleration on it, hasn't it? There we go. So this is the from radial, remember. So 300 degrees from Seaford which is down here. We'd have to do this in LittleNavMap to show you it accurately. So we're going to measure a distance from Seaford. So 300 degrees. At the time I did it, yeah, we were on that line somewhere. So it just shows you how you can do triangulation. If you do two different radio beacons, you can plot your position if your GPS packs up. So it'd be quite a good failure to simulate, wouldn't it? To have this completely pack up and just settle on the nav radios and charts and draw all over them with a pen to figure out, or with a pencil to figure out where you are. I've actually done some example videos in the past doing exactly that trick. Am I happy with the Tobii Eye Tracker? I don't actually use it for eye tracking. I've always disabled the eyepiece because I use it just to gauge my head position. And I almost think of using my head as directing the camera for you. If I need to fiddle with any of the switches, I tend to turn it off and then just use the mouse as per normal to control the view. But for looking around, it is absolutely fantastic. But I think the trap you can fall into, and you kind of train yourself to defeat it in a way, is if you're trying to click on a very small click spot and the airplane's bouncing around and maybe your head is drifting slightly, it pays to lean in to click on things to make them bigger. Or if you need to, if you needed to do a lot of things quickly, you can assign a hotkey to turn it on and off. So if I press, I've got it set to numlock. If I press numlock, I'm now using the mouse to control the view. And obviously I can just zoom in and out as you normally would. And then press F to come back, numlock to turn the head tracking back on, and I'm off to the races again. If it does start to drift and it's kind of reading where your face is going the wrong way, you can press F12 to reset it. Or I've mapped a key, F12, which resets my my eye tracking position. Because you might want to sit back in your chair, but the problem with doing that is you can sit back far enough that your head is behind the seat, or you can lean out through the window. There's nothing to stop you doing that. So you can completely break immersion if you overdo it. But beyond that, it is very, very good for just checking instruments while you're flying and looking around and being able to look behind you, like on a circuit, for example. Oh, we've got company. There's somebody out there about 200 yards off of our starboard wing. Should we go and look outside and see if we can see them? Okay, so smooth this air out a bit. I'm going to take the airplane up to 10,000 feet. So we can arm that and it will go vertical speed, so we can pull this and then we can set the vertical speed to make the transition. So this works properly, unlike the Coronado version. Although saying that, it could be a completely different unit that just does work differently. So we'll go for 1,000 feet a minute and let the airplane do some work for a while. We will see a difference in the amount of power we can output, because the higher altitude you get, you can put more power down, and because the air is less dense, there'll be less torque generated. So at higher altitudes, you suddenly become barometric pressure limited, I guess, rather than torque limited in terms of the throttle. At low altitudes in this aeroplane, you can put far more power in than the engine can really deal with over a length of time. You don't need to worry about the propeller because it's a constant speed propeller. It governs itself. So yeah, even climbing at 1,000 feet a minute, look, it's still doing over 180 knots. It's absolutely whizzing along. So coming up through 4,000 feet. When we get to 6,000, I think we'll have to go to standard barometric pressure. Most of the southern UK is 6,000 feet. Transition altitude. I'm not sure if it shows it on here. So if we were to go and look at Oxford Airport, for example, and go to the weather, does it give us the transition altitude? No, it would appear on charts though, wouldn't it? So if we were to go and look at the charts and look for the SIDS from Oxford, transition altitude 6,000 feet. So we're just coming up through 5.5. So all we need to do is just dial the either to 1013 or 2992. I tend to go by inches because it's more accurate. So it just means that once you're above 6,000 feet, all of the aircraft above the transition altitude have got their altimeters tuned the same as each other. So you can see, and this is why you have a transition altitude and a transition level, because as I'm tuning this, you can see it's pulling me back away from the altitude. There we go. Do we get a standby altimeter? Or, you know, backup altimeter? I don't think we do we? So outside air temperature 43 Fahrenheit, 6 centigrade. It's quite cold, isn't it? We got the cabin temperature hasn't come on though. So inside we're 22 centigrade. That's fine. That might drop now we're climbing, obviously. So if that does start to drop, we'll have to go and put the air conditioning on and turn the heaters on for a bit, I guess. Got another message. Oh, it's just telling us about the airspace. Yeah, so you'll notice as we're gaining altitude, it's a bit smoother up here than it was down at 2,000 feet. So where are we looking out at here? Let's have a look on the map. Let's turn that chart off to begin with. Royal Tunbridge Wells we are seeing out there. Should we put the head tracking back on? Yeah, I was just reading the live stream comments. I thought the cooling towers at Didcot had all been flattened now. Okay, so we're heading towards the Dover VOR now. You should start to see the coast ahead of us. Obviously off to this side you can see the south coast of England. You know, if we did a small diversion, we could go and see the cliffs of Dover, couldn't we? Although we'll see them as we pull away and look back over our shoulder, we'll see them, so. So once we get past the Dover VOR, we'll be heading for... Now, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. I'm not a native Belgian speaker, so I'm not even going to try. So Ryan G is said he went and bought the TechNam P2012. It's very good, isn't it? Is that the one that has the Alpenair livery? And there's several videos of the real thing on YouTube, aren't there? So let's go and line the heading up with the direction we're going, just in case we need it. We can go and push this again, so we see toggle between climb rate and target altitude. You can see we're absolutely on the numbers, 10,000 feet, zooming along. And we're still only doing, although this is indicated, remember, so our ground speed will be significantly higher. If we go and have a look on LittleNavMap, I think, yeah, ground speed's at 246 knots. If we went up another 10,000 feet, we'd probably go a lot quicker than that even. So should we go and nudge this up towards 100%? On the, oh, the torque's that's just over the limit. Okay, maybe not. I don't want to smash the engine up. There we go. That's a bit too close to the line for comfort though, isn't it? I'll pull it back a little bit. How about propeller RPM? Can we push it a little bit, get it higher to the closer to the red line? It's interesting that though, you don't necessarily go the fastest on the fastest RPM. Because you can notice, look, if we pull this back, it will increase the torque. But it's actually it's actually holding the same airspeed, if not accelerating, with a slower propeller RPM. And the only way you can kind of liken it is a boat propeller, where if you overdrive a boat propeller, it will just cavitate and not actually grab the air. So that's why you get all these tables of data in the airplane books, in the pilot operating handbooks, advising the most efficient power and propeller settings to use for different altitudes. So I went and turned on the oxygen, but I didn't actually set the cabin altitude for the trip, and it only really kicks in at 14,000 anyway, so we don't need to worry so much about the environmental control system. See how the engine's doing. So if you have never seen this TBM 850 before, it's got the failure modelling hidden inside the weather radar. So you can open up the navigation page on the weather radar and it shows you your engine condition. You can also go and set up failure rates to have things go wrong on the aeroplane. The latest black square aeroplane, the Duke, has a wonderful tablet in it, so I may use it on one of the upcoming flights. I guess the big question is, where do we go after Frankfurt? So that's a good point actually. Anybody watching, if you would love to, if you'd like to comment, or in the live stream chat is not maybe the best place, But once this becomes a normal video, or on the blog post that will follow this flight, if you would like to put in some suggestions of where we go from Frankfurt and maybe what aeroplane to fly as well, happy to fly whatever aeroplane and whatever route. Probably best to keep the legs to an hour and a half or less, just to keep it interesting, otherwise it becomes a bit onerous, doesn't it? Nobody wants to sit and watch an aeroplane plodding away for 5 or 6 hours. Okay, so we're coming up to the Dover VOR. You can see it coming up on the map, 3 minutes away from it. 14 nautical miles, but we are whistling along. Just over 200 knots indicated. About 240 something knots ground speed. Yeah, well, we can see it down here, look, it's calculating at 254 knots ground speed. So it's actually faster. And the message has come up again. Airspace alert. Less than 10 minutes, that's fine. Don't need to worry about that. Should we have a look at Volanta? We've been subtly neglecting it. So you can see our route there as we've flown along, messing around with the aeroplane along the way. So if we go and put this into satellite mode, and zoom it into 3 dimensions, you can see there's our climb, look, from 2,000 up to 10,000 feet. And we are now tracking across towards the Dover VOR. And then we'll cross the channel. And a bit later on, we'll arrive at Frankfurt, or in the area of Frankfurt. So there's the airfield. Put this back onto satellite mode. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting flight. So if you've not seen Volanta before, it's pretty clever. So the feature I was talking about earlier, if you add me as a friend, so you've got a couple of friend requests in here, look, so let's go and accept some people. So I can add people who are friends into a party. I can create a party. This is the new premium version of Volanta, or premium features within Volanta. Anyone who has a premium account can create a party, and then you can invite up to 10 people in. And once you've invited people into a party, you can pop open this window and you can message each other. So you could say hello, and it will do like text chat alongside the Volanta map. But also you can draw on the map. So if you enable drawing, I think it's shift you have to hold down, and then you can draw whatever you want. Obviously you can undo that as well. But yeah, you could be, you know, penciling in places that you want to visit along the way. But the trick is it's 3D. The drawing is in 3D. I have been talking to the developers of it, saying it would be really nice if the drawing features allowed you to draw circles and straight lines and text. If it could do that, it would be brilliant, because then you could use it for ATC purposes. The other thing I've asked them if they can add to the product is labels on the aeroplanes, because at the moment you have to go and click on an aeroplane to find out what it is. So we can click on this one, for example, and find out who he is and what he's doing. What are they doing? Okay. Interesting. They're doing some sort of low-level or they're doing a search pattern by the look of it. Obviously, we click on ourselves. That's me, and about to pass over the Dover VOR and head off towards the KOK VOR in Belgium. So let's go and have a look back in the aeroplane. So we're making that turn, look, leaving Dover behind now. So if we go and look outside, we should see the white cliffs of Dover down here. There they are. There's Dover port, and there's a big cruise ship in there. Various other ships on their way in and out. Nice looking aeroplane, isn't it? Very sleek. Obviously that's where it gets its speed from. Okay, let's keep an eye on the torque and the propeller. NG's fine. We're in the green on the engine oil, that's fine for PSI and temperature. It's a good point actually. Does the... We'll have to go and... I'm going to go and turn off head tracking. Yeah, this hasn't corrected itself, look, on the co-pilot side, so we want 2992 on this side as well. This is the old-fashioned Coleman window, or Colesman. Is it Colesman or Coleman? I can never remember. 2992 we want, don't we? Oh no, I've gone too far the other way. It's 296, 297, 298, 2992. I can never remember what you get on the co-pilot side versus the pilot side. Obviously you get the cabin temperature, which is handy. If it drops below 10, I think, or is it 6 degrees, the temperature warning light will come on. So we've got +1 degree outside, so we ought to go and be a bit careful about icing, I guess, but there's no perspiration out there to cause it, I guess. Once you get cold enough and high enough, ice won't form easily. Ah, so you can actually see the cliffs now. Except we've gone so far away that they're starting to not be rendered because of the draw distance. Okay, so there's the coast of France. We're just skipping along the edge of. If you can have a look on the map, you can see we're going to pass Calais and Dunkirk. So Calais is over here. There's the port of Calais. Dunkirk's a bit further on. I guess that's it there, isn't it? Or is it? Hang on, let's have a look. No, yeah, so Dunkirk's the next one on from that's the main port, okay, and then the town is further along. So Dunkirk will be over here. Some low cloud, a few little boats in the ocean below us. They look like ants, don't they, from this altitude? So we have 6 minutes to run until we get to the next waypoint. Yeah, the real trick, I've got a video specifically about this KNS-80. Say if you've got an airfield, I don't know, say 10 miles away from a VOR station, but the airfield has no ILS, you can create a virtual VOR in line with the runway and on the end of the runway to give yourself a virtual localizer to fly into. So then the HSI will reflect whatever you've programmed in. The way it works, if I do that, show you on here. So you've got a data button here, So you leave this in RNAV mode and you put the HSI in RNAV mode. So you tune in the VOR that you're actually meaning to use, and then you can set a radial from that VOR, so an angle from that VOR, and a distance from that VOR, and then the HSI will show the readings as if the VOR had been displaced by an angle and a distance from its real location. It's very clever. So you can essentially invent, a localizer where there isn't one. So Michael Duncan is saying, isn't there something in the marketplace that allows you to see cargo ships on their actual shipping lanes? There probably is, because the shipping data is public information, isn't it? If we go and open a web browser, we have one open, don't we? If we type in shipping map, marine traffic. Yeah, see, it's public information. So if we go and zoom back over to, where are we? It's difficult to see with the map this way around, isn't it? Here we go. There's the UK. There's all the boats live where they are right now. So if we go and look at Dunkirk, in the real world, there's a number in the port there, but you can click on them and see, exactly what boats are around. So there's a couple of yachts dotted about, a couple of container ships, a couple of ferries, things like that. But yeah, it's all public information. So all it would require, you wouldn't have to invent data. You could just read where the real ships are and render them. Obviously you need to have a library of ship shapes to use. I think it's all coming in 2024, isn't it? They're going to put ships in the sea in the right places. And I guess seafront simulations will probably be kicking themselves unless they've got a hand in doing it with them. Maybe they've sub-licensed their code, who knows? Because they've already got the library of the, the ship models. Yeah, I'm using seafront simulations today, so I'm not seeing much along here, but I've probably got it turned down a bit so that you can see some behind us. Okay, should we drop back down to 5,000 feet? So we're going to say 5,000, and then we arm it, and then we go to vertical speed, and we come down at, say, 1,000 feet a minute, and we watch the airspeed increase. We'll need to be careful of power, remember, because as we get into the lower altitudes, the torque will rise up, or will increase. So we're approaching that VOR, the KOK VOR, on the border of Belgium. Where are we? Volanta. So we can see ourselves beginning to descend. Can we see the briefing in here? Yes, we can. We got the operational flight plan. Wonderful. So this is the flight plan that Simbrief generated based on the TBM 850 and the sequence of VORs to get to Frankfurt. What just happened? Okay, my controls just had a fit. I think I'm going to need to buy a new USB hub, I saw this happen on a flight recently. It's either the hub is on its way out or the throttle quadrant is on its way out. Not quite sure which. This is why it pays to be present in the cockpit, isn't it? When things like that happen. so you can catch it before you lose the aeroplane entirely. Just coming down to 8,000 feet. Obviously we'll have to tune back into local barometric pressure once we get below the transition altitude. So what is the transition altitude then in Belgium typically? Let's go and have a... I wonder if we can find out by looking on LittleNavMap. Not going to tell me, is it? If I go and look up a chart for somewhere in Belgium, we can figure it out. So Ostend, Ebos. So if I go over to Volanta, not Volanta, Navigraph, go to airports and type in Ebos and pull up the charts and look for a SID maybe. And we should see, yes, 4,500. Okay, so we're going to be above the transition altitude. That's fine then. I wonder if it's consistent. Let's look up another airport just to double check. So that was Ebos. Somewhere else along our way, Antwerp. So EBAW. So airports, EBAW. Pull up the charts, let's look for a SID and open a SID chart at Antwerp, and we got 4,500, so it seems to be consistent along the route. So we can stay on standard barometric pressure while we cross over, as long as we stay above 4,500 feet. Good. Okay, let's have a read of the live stream comments. If you tab out and back in, the sim has been dumping throttle signals. Is that a bug in the sim recently then, with it dumping the throttle signals? Aha, that would explain then. Yes, I did a flight in the Piper Arrow the other day, and the throttle died twice. Also, I've got a pre-release copy of the Blackbird Simulations Texan 2, and the major problem I had with it was the engine dying, because the throttle was glitching and it killed the engine. So, but I haven't got around to looking at it again yet. So we're at 5,000 feet now. We've leveled out. We've hit our altitude target. So we're low enough to see some scenery on our way across. It's very calm air, isn't it? No wind going on at all, really. Okay, so we got 13 minutes until we get to the next. That's the Antwerp VOR that we're heading towards now. So Ghent is off to our right, or will be in a few minutes. Should we pull up ATIS and see if we can listen in on ATIS to some of these airports along the way? We should be able to still get Ostend ATIS, I would imagine. So let's find this out from Navigraph just to make a bit of difference. So airports, can we search for the name of... Apparently not. Ebos, wasn't it? Oh, it's spelled Oostend because it's the proper spelling, not the anglicised version. So if we went to an approach chart, approach. We want ATIS 126130. I just want to have a play with this to see if it works.
Airport information Alpha 1100 Zulu.
There we go.
Wind 09er at tree. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, few clouds at 500 feet, few clouds at 10,100 feet, ceiling 14,000 feet broken. Temperature, 16. Dew point, 10. Altimeter, tree 0.21. ILS runway 08 in use. Landing
there we go.
Departing runway 08. VFR aircraft say direction of flight.
Detune it so we don't have to listen to it endlessly. I love that little features like that work in the simulator. I think it's fantastic. I don't know if you've ever played with this as well. You can have the Morse code on the nav beacons. So if we go and tune in, say the COA one, 11005. Cabin audio. See, I thought should have been able to hear that. So what we should be hearing, if we go and have a look and get rid of that chart, we just tuned in COA, didn't we? We should be hearing that Morse code sequence, dash dot dash dot dash 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 dot dash. But it doesn't always work in flight sim. It's been a well-known bug. Always, sometimes it's so quiet you just can't hear it. So that's our squelch, and volume is in the middle, I think. Yeah, squelch on the outside, volume in the middle. It's not doing anything, is it? Wonder if we have to do something silly like press pilot to get it to come to our headset. So, where are we approaching? Let's have a look. It's a shame that didn't work. A lot of planes it works, and you can... It may be something I'm doing though, or maybe I'm not using this unit properly. There's a good point there. If we go and tune that back into ATIS and go and transfer it again.
Austin Airport information Alpha 1100 Zulu. Wind 09er 8 at tree. Visibility. Austin Airport information Alpha. Austin Airport information Alpha.
That's interesting.
Zulu. Wind 09er 8 at tree. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, 500 feet scattered, few clouds at 10,100 feet, ceiling 14,000 feet overcast. Temperature, 16.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't pick up the nav frequency. 11005. It was 11005, wasn't it, for COA? Yeah. And it's identified it correctly because it's got the ID there. Okay. It's just not going to make the noises we want it to. I can never get over how good this simulator is, you know. It's watching the world go whistling by. I wonder what those masts are down there. They're huge. There's more of them across here, look. Oh, they're windmills, aren't they? We're just too far away to see them properly. Right. I'm going to push the throttle on a little bit, or push the propeller on a little bit. Open the power up a little bit, but not that much. That's a bit too close to the red line. Right, I'm going to go and grab a drink. I'm just going to go and put LittleNavMap up, and if I go window, open window layout, and oh, have I lost my files for this? Documents, para, resources, flight simulation, LittleNavMap files, window layouts, minimal. There we go. So then you can see where we are at a glance. I'll just also go into taskbar settings for Windows and make it automatically hide the taskbar. Then we can do that. Hurrah! So we're on our way to the Antwerp VOR, and then we're off to Maastricht after that, which is 60 miles across the countryside. So I'm going to go and grab a quick drink. I'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, I'm back. I have a large glass of red wine, which is probably not safe for aviation, but there you go. So we are approaching the Antwerp VOR, so let's go and have a look. So this is Antwerp, we're just passing by. So let's have a look on Navigraph. Oh look, Navigraph's had a bit of a fit. So we'll just resize it and it will fix itself. So here we go. Downtown, Antwerp. The old part of the city's huge, isn't it? Okay, I'm taking that this is a famous building of some description. Otherwise it wouldn't be a 3D asset. So, someone's saying, can we spot the VOR? We're about to go right over it. So if we look where the airfield is, it's over in the far left corner. So it's here. Yeah, there it is. So that's the VOR. I don't think I've got the add-on installed at the moment that draws all the VORs in. I ought to go and reinstall it for some of the later flights, and we can play Spot the VOR as we're flying along. Right. So we've got 15 minutes to go until we get to the next one. Let's just keep an eye on the engine instruments, make sure everything's looking good, and we'll zoom out on the map so you can see the Maastricht VOR coming, and then we cross over the border into Germany soon, and we'll fly down the Rhine towards Frankfurt. So we've got about 15 minutes to get to Maastricht. We're making good progress. So I'm just going to go, I need to go and have a conversation with my other half about something. I'll be back in a few minutes. So if I put LittleNavMap back on in the corner of the screen over here, you can see where we are on the route. There we go. So you can see where we're going to cross the border very soon into Germany. Back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I guess we could have a play with inserting some waypoints into the plan, couldn't we? So we're going to jump inside the aeroplane. So obviously you can see we're flying across the map at the moment. So let's come back out of the map, go to the flight plan page on the TDS XI. So we're going to go towards Cologne on purpose. And the reason for doing that is then we can then follow the Rhine down the river. So if we put some of these waypoints in, I'm not sure if they'll all come up in the TDS. They should. Although we could just hand fly it there at that point, couldn't we? And go down past from Cologne, Bonn, Koblenz, and just follow the Rhine into Frankfurt, and then obviously we'll go off at some point. So Frankfurt is the River Main, isn't it? Where does the Main join up with the Rhine? Okay, it's over here then. Just as you make the bend on the Rhine, the Main splits off. Is it Main or Main? I'm not sure what the local pronunciation would be. And we'll go and have a fly around Frankfurt City before we come back down to Egglesbach. Yeah, it should be good fun. So yeah, although I've penciled in the VORs, we're actually going to come in at Cologne and then follow the river. So probably we've got about 25 minutes, maybe half an hour until we get there. So at the moment we are 7 minutes out from Maastricht. Then what's the next one after that? It's Cologne is the next one. So it's interesting the way the borders work around here, isn't it? So Maastricht is part of the Netherlands, I guess. It's interesting, isn't it? The border goes all the way around that little area. And as soon as we leave Maastricht, we'll be over Germany all of a sudden. And yeah, we can just follow the Rhine all the way from that point on into Frankfurt, which would be quite good fun. So we'll hand fly that probably. Turn the autopilot off once we get to the Rhine. So Vincent lives in Maastricht. See, it's funny, isn't it? I've not travelled that widely in Europe. I say that probably more than most, but I've been to Frankfurt a lot. Let's turn the window layout back onto normal. Default window layout in LittleNavMap. There we go. So yeah, I've travelled. I've been to France, been to Paris, been to several of the cities on the south coast of France. I've been to a couple of different cities in Italy. I've been to a couple of cities in Czechia, or the Czech Republic as it used to be known. Yeah, so I've been to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. But I've not really travelled much in Germany or in, yeah, I've certainly not been to Maastricht, not been anywhere in Belgium. Although I've passed through it on a train, I guess you could say that much. But yeah, it's funny, myself and my other half were just talking about doing a river cruise on either the Rhine or the Main at some point. But our only concern about doing that is the age range of people that would be on the cruise with us if we did it. That they might be quite old and that we wouldn't have anything much in common with them maybe. I don't know. We need to do some research, but I think it just seems like a really nice, relaxing holiday to go and do one of the big river cruises on the rivers in Germany, because you get to see so much of the countryside as well. Okay, should we have a look from outside while we're flying along talking? Then people can get to see where we are. Yeah, that's a good point actually. Let's go and while we're just flying along on this overhead bit until we get to Cologne, let's go and put this back on minimal window layout. Put it up in the corner of the screen so we can see how far away we are from Cologne. And we get to see the landscape whistling by. But yeah, when I worked in Frankfurt for several years on and off on quite a big corporate project and made friends with people there. I really need to go back and visit them at some point and say hello, because you know, if you work with people for long enough, they do become your friends. And I got to know Frankfurt really, really well, enough that I've got a friend visiting Frankfurt at the moment, and she's been messaging me on and off today, and I've been telling her where to go and eat. And the trouble is, my knowledge is getting old. You know, a lot of the places are changing, so my knowledge of it was maybe 4 years ago now, before the pandemic. But yeah, I've been telling her what bars were good then, what restaurants were good, you know, where you can go as a single person in the city that wouldn't be too onerous, and where you can get traditional German food, which sounds like a crazy thing to say, visiting Germany, but if you visit any international city, it's not straightforward to get the, you know, the local food. The best place I found in Frankfurt was a tiny little restaurant, or not restaurant, I don't know what you call it, eatery then, called Basler Eck, which is down by the river in the middle of Frankfurt, by the railway station. And Basler Eck is this old hotel run by a family, and they serve traditional German food. So you get, you know, basically meat, potatoes and vegetables, and variations of. But it's obvious that it's probably one of the most popular places to eat in the entire city, because as soon as you go in, all of the walls are wallpapered with stickers from the airlines that the crews have brought in. So there's all this corporate stuff from the various airlines all over the walls in Basler Eck. And because the crews of the airlines that are staying over go and eat there to get a proper home-cooked meal, basically. I mean, it's very basic food, but you know, it's hearty and filling, and it's what you want, really, if you've had a long day. But obviously, you know, Frankfurt, as with any big city, is you can get any food you like, really. I'm sure the other big cities in Germany are all the same as they are worldwide. You don't really see kind of not local is the wrong word, but you don't see home cooking as you would in a country pub, for example, in a city, do you? So Chattanooga is saying in Germany most open diners are not run by Germans. Yeah, this is true. It's the same in all cities though, isn't it? You get all the big chain, and franchise restaurants in cities. You very rarely get anywhere that's going to serve you local produce. Okay, did we just get an engine? Yes, we did. We just got an engine malfunction. Let's just fix that. And cut the throttle before it goes to 100% and puts bits of the pistons in the fuel flow. So that's something that will happen in this aeroplane, by the way. I'm not sure where the light is that would denote it. I think it's up here somewhere. But you can... Oh, it's one of these. Let's have a look at the warnings. Chip. It's chip. So if chip lights up, it basically means you've got bits of metal in the fuel flow. So I think there's a magnetometer on the fuel pipe, and it can detect the presence of particles of metal in the fuel. And the reason that would happen is because the pistons are falling to pieces. But obviously this is not a piston engine. Not a normal one anyway. This is a turboprop, so you have a gas turbine. So it will be part of the gearing that's falling to pieces because you're overdriving the axle. So I'm just eating something to keep me going. Actually, let's see if we can find a diagram of a turboprop to explain to people how these things work. Turboprop diagram. You often see these actually in... Yeah, that's a really bad example. You can never find good examples of the kind of engines you want to show. Turboprop diagram, let's put in TBM 850. Let's see if it would... No. Oh, we're going to give up on that idea then. But basically, if we look at the aeroplane from outside, the way these engines tend to work, you've got the gas turbine hidden inside, facing backwards, which is why the exhausts are here. And the output of the gas turbine pushes a fan internally, which then drives a gearbox, which drives the propeller. It's interesting though, because on an airliner, turbofans work differently. They don't have a gearbox. They're free floating, if that makes any sense. The propeller is free floating, and it may be on some turboprops as well. So the output of the gas turbine is used to drive a propeller internally, which then drives an axle. And it's on a turbofan on a big engine. The fan being driven by the output of the gas turbine is directly connected to the turbofan, or the big fan on the front of the engine. So it's like one windmill driving another, if that makes sense. So yeah, obviously chip on this is chips in the oil, I should say, not the fuel pipe. So it's going to be detecting the presence of bits of metal in the oil. Maybe the coolant system as well, without seeing a detailed diagram of how each engine does it. We can easily simulate it for you if I just push the throttle up to maximum. And we could do it, I guess, and deliberately damage the engine. It's not going to hurt us too much. So if I go and put, we've got engine condition showing here. Watch. We can reset the damage, to be honest. I'm going to put the throttle to maximum. So there we go. Torque is going to go through 100%. Watch. We'll get the chip light will come on pretty quickly, probably. Engine condition will start to drop. Unless the simulator is set to not have engine damage. I'm not sure if I've switched it off. I probably haven't. Let's just go and check. So if I look in assistance, will it be in here? Failure and damage, engine stress. Oh, it's disabled. There we go. Enabled. Aircraft stress, we'll leave those off. Engine stress damage was enabled. So, oh no, that was crash damage, sorry. So engine stress was enabled. Apply, go back, resume. Obviously going out to the menu and coming back caused that bug. There we go, so we're above 100% torque. So if we leave it there for a while, you'll start to see the engine condition degrade. If we go flat out on the propeller speed as well, I'm going to say this and then it won't do it to us, will it? See, look, we're right. Okay, so if we can over torque it enormously if we just slow the propeller down. This is how to break your engine. Can we get it to do it? Can we get bits of metal from the gearbox? Into the oil? It's not going to do it to us, is it? It's Sod's law, that is. So yeah, William is saying, isn't there a governor that prevents it? There may well be. So despite my best efforts to wreck the engine, we're not causing bits of metal to be floating around. It might be that we're just high enough that it's not going to cause it. So although we're reducing the prop RPM, you can see the torque has gone through the roof. And if we really reduce it, can we go beyond the red line? Massively so. But it's not causing the chip. That's interesting. I would have thought it should have. Okay, we'll give up trying to wreck the engine then. Nice to see you, William, by the way. But I think it always fascinates me how turboprops and turbofans work. That you're essentially governing power by purely injecting more fuel or not. Obviously it's more complicated than that because the engine has, you know, all sorts of functions inside it to disperse the fuel and to atomize it and to burn it. But essentially you are controlling how much power you are pushing through the axle with the propeller on it by putting more fuel through the jet engine. So you burn more fuel, you generate more output out of the back of it, and that hot air pressure, gas, spins the axle with the propeller on it. Okay, so we are approaching Cologne very soon. So we're just about to pass over the airfield here. Let's have a look. Oh, we've already passed it. So yeah, let's come off the autopilot. And we'll circle back over the city and then follow the Rhine. So descending turn. We've got a warning coming on because we obviously just thrashed the engine to pieces. So we'll circle around over Cologne and then come back. So we'll descend as we go. And then follow the Rhine south, which will take us straight to Frankfurt almost. So people commenting that my frame rate is very smooth. I'm running in ultra mode. The graphics card in this machine is an NVIDIA 3080 RTX. But that's not really the secret. I'm running in ultra. I've got it frame limited to 30 frames a second, which is half the refresh rate of the monitor. I bought a 1080p monitor on purpose. To be honest, the jump up from 1080p to 4K doesn't really stress the graphics card too much. But the reason I've got a 1080p monitor on purpose is because that's what I broadcast out to YouTube. So there was no point rendering at a higher resolution than I'm going to send out. And the reason I've always sent out 1080p and not 4K is because of the file sizes. They obviously are an order of magnitude smaller. So maybe Flight Sim's having some issues this evening with the servers. See, we've got a custom 3D asset down here. Can we get, there we go, inhibit, there we go. Caught it that time. Should we slide across the cockpit so we can see? Yeah, it is slowly improving, look. So it's just the servers are having a bad night. Now we've given it a chance, the photogrammetry is updating. It's been like it all night, to be honest. It's been very slow to pull its finger out and start drawing things. Okay, let's keep an eye on the torque. Now we're at a low altitude. Although saying that, it wasn't causing trouble, was it? And we're still at 100%. So let me just go and check that again. Let's go and look in the damage modeling. Sorry, wrong menu. Assistance options. So failure and damage. Crash damage is disabled. Aircraft stress is disabled. Engine stress is enabled. Interesting. Okay, so looking at the map, we carry on down for a while yet. Yeah, there's definitely issues going on this evening. So we're going to carry on down towards Bonn. Follow the river. I wonder if it's related to what mode is in place when the aircraft loads into the simulator. Although no, because we had engine stress on, didn't we? So presumably this is that like heavy industry down here with all these tank farms and chimneys everywhere. Should we just scoot over to the side so we can see? It's like refineries, isn't it? Photogrammetry seems to be working now. It's bizarre that it didn't when we were over the top of Cologne, isn't it? So follow the river south. So when we engage autopilot on its own, it just does pitch and roll hold. So a trick you can do is just go put the heading bug on the center, engage heading mode, put altitude hold mode on, and it will hold at the altitude we're at. And that's corrected the altitude pre-selector as well. It's behaving absolutely as you would like it to, which is good. Which gives us a chance now to go and have a look. So we're obviously flying along this stretch of the Rhine down towards Koblenz. We're about to come over the top of Bonn, so we'll go to the outside view to look at Bonn as we fly past. Okay, so you can see the Rhine zigzags its way down through to those hills over there. So let's go and change our heading a few degrees to the right. So we're just changing course to come down here. So Koblenz is next on our itinerary. So if we zoom in on this map, we should see the river. There we go. So is that a BMX track or a motocross track? Or a supercross track, who knows? Or just a quarry. How are we doing for fuel? Let's go and have a look around. So fuel gauges are over here. Left and right are, it's obviously been alternating. Look, they're right over the top of each other, so we've got loads of fuel left. So the auxiliary boost pump is on auto, fuel selection is on auto. So there's the fuel selector. Look, it's on the left tank at the moment. It'll keep flick-flacking between the two of them. Letting the plane fly itself at the moment. So let's see if we have any points of interest along the way. Okay, so we'll need to, I think that we'll hand fly to go to have a look at Koblenz. So we'll come off the autopilot. The turbulence off these hills is quite fierce. Have we got much wind going on? There's about 10 knots wind, but enough for it to come over these hills and hit us and push us around. So let's reduce speed a little bit, pull the power back, and descend as we go. So we're dropping down 2,300 feet at the moment, 2,200. We're not at the correct barometric pressure now, so let's press B. We now are at the correct barometric pressure for the altitude, so yeah, 2,300 feet and descending. Okay, so we're heading towards Koblenz, which is over here, I think. On the far side of that next curve. This aeroplane is being thrown all over the place. There's something to be said for flying at higher altitudes, you know. The reason we're hearing beeping is because we're getting near the altitude that's on the target on the pre-selector. You can see us on the map now, look in relation to Frankfurt. We're not that far away now. Should we pull down over the river?
Sink rate, sink rate, sink rate.
Okay, so there's just a couple of ends coming up on the right. Is that what it looks like over there? Or is that a scenery aberration? It looks like a some kind of skiing hill. A ski slope. It's got to be a scenery aberration, hasn't it? Okay, let's get back in the pilot's seat and get some power back down and continue on our way. So, we're making our way down the river slowly. We could straight line it rather than continuing on, because there's no big cities to see from here. We could straight line it over to the end waypoint, couldn't we? There's a direct to button on here somewhere, isn't there? There it is. Which, with the aeroplane bouncing around, we're not going to be able to click on. So we want to go direct to the EDFE, which is the final destination. But actually we want to go to the city first, don't we? Skylake. If we go for Skylake, that will take us in. So if we select a waypoint of G and press enter. And activate. And then go nav mode and altitude hold. I'll let the aeroplane stop bucking around like a bronco. And we zoom in. And we're 11 minutes out from downtown Frankfurt. So, that said, let's go and take ourselves back out to 5,000 feet, shall we? So we arm that, and then we go vertical speed and say climb. Not at 2,600 feet a minute, 1,000 feet a minute, please. And we get to admire the rolling hills of this part of Germany. So we're straight lining it over to Frankfurt. So you can see the Rhine goes all the way down there. So the route we are taking, let's have a look ourselves on the map. We are going straight to Skylake, aren't we? How much more smooth this is, a few thousand feet higher. He says, as the plane suddenly hits an updraft. Eight minutes to run. So let's go and have a look at the map. We could actually use that KNS-80. Yes, we can. KNS-80. So we've got a VOR over here. Yep. 11420, which is the Frankfurt VOR. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make ourselves, which way's the wind? It's 10 degrees 6 knots. So the wind is southerly, but only a few knots. So what we're going to do is give ourselves an approach to runway 26 using a pretend VOR. So we're going to use this, so measure distance from here. So we want to go to there. Yeah, we're going to make a pretend localizer at 5.6 miles away, 172 degrees. We just lost the engine again, haven't we? So let's turn the head tracking off. So we want the frequency of this 11420. Okay, and that's pulled up the information. We want a radial of 172 degrees. You can push this as well to get decimals. And we also want then a distance of 5.6. So 5.6. Okay. So then, remember we are flying on nav mode at the moment. We're going to go, leave it on nav mode. Let's get the heading lined up. Go to heading mode. Change the CDI over now to VLOC, so the HSI will show this, but then we're not going to use that. We're going to change this over to RNAV. Yeah, so it's still flying heading mode, but then we can change the course to 263 degrees. It's the other way around. So we essentially now have invented a localizer, 250, 260, about there-ish. So we've invented a localizer for the runway that doesn't have one. And that's made possible by this radio kit, the KNS-80, and the HSI being able to run in RNAV mode. So in other words, it's using the output of this radio. And this radio has been told to offset its results on a radial and a distance from the actual beacon. It'll become very obvious when we actually get there. But for the moment, we're just following the GPS to get over to Frankfurt and have a look. But when we fly over towards the airfield, it'll become very, very obvious what we're up to. Okay, so Frankfurt's right in front of us. And we can see it. So we made it. This is leg one of the round the world trip. We've gone all the way from Oxford to Frankfurt in the TBM 850. I say we've made it, we haven't landed yet. So this aeroplane can actually do about 1,400 miles on a full tank of fuel. So we're not even really stretching its legs doing 400 miles. What was the actual distance of the original trip? It was, if we go to window, open window layout, default, it gives us the point to point, there we go, 430 nautical miles if we had followed the VOR route. Okay, so let's come off the autopilot. And pull the propeller and the power back. And head tracking on. Do some sightseeing now as we wander around Frankfurt. So my recollection when I last looked, I haven't been back to Frankfurt in the sim for a year or so, but when it was updated it had by far the best graphics of any city in the simulator. The number of custom 3D objects here was just astounding. Yeah, look at the quality of the photogrammetry here. It is really next level, isn't it? And the quality of the skyscrapers, they're all custom assets. So there's the River Main. There's the old part of the town. So there's the old square. Although it's been rebuilt because it was all bombed flat, obviously, in the Second World War. So, just for a bit of interest, I worked in this building for a couple of years on and off. So on the northern side tends to be a lot more modern. The older part of the city is on the southern side of the river. So let's see if we can spin the camera around and show some of it. Yeah, so you get these big, this main road that comes through the southern side. There's got some really nice bars and restaurants along there. As usual, the simulator's done its trick with putting far too many trees in, but it's still pretty good. Right, should we go and see if we can get lined up for an approach? Let's have a look at the map. Yeah, so we want to probably fly a bit further across than that. So EDFE is our intended runway. And there it is, just appearing on the map. So if we fly out to the left of it and try and lose some airspeed as well. This aeroplane being thrown around by the wind. I will admit, while I was working in the city, I didn't go and do any fine dining or anything, because I was working on a budget as well, obviously, as most people travelling with work do. You have an amount per day you can spend. So I typically would go and eat. There was a couple of places called Mosh Mosh around the city. It's like a Japanese fusion, kind of a German version of Japanese food. It was very good. Okay, so let's drop the gear. So if you keep an eye on the HSI, look, you can see it coming in. So that's the centre line of the runway. But remember, this airfield doesn't actually have a localizer. So that's being done by the KNS-80. So as we come across the runway, you'll see that come into play. I'm just going to chuck our nose in the air to one side to get it to drop the speed down. There we go. So max RPM on the propeller, and then just use the power now. And flaps. We're a bit high.
$500.
Okay, there we go. Stabilized approach. Flaps are down. Power's good. Cut the power. Flare. And we're down. No drama. Flaps can come up. So this is obviously a default airfield, it hasn't got any custom scenery on it, but it's still pretty good. Okay, let's go and park up and shut the airplane down. And then I'll hopefully get the video or the blog post out. So if you look in the notes of this video, I've told you where the blog lives, and I'm going to write up each flight as I do the round the world with a few more notes than usual, just to make it a bit more interesting really. Okay, so let's go and shut the fuel from the engine, and you'll see this all light up like a Christmas tree. You can see the warning lights come on already. So we need to go and switch things off. Air conditioning off. 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 There we go. See, I told you it would all light up like a Christmas tree. You can see the propeller windmilling there. Obviously the master cautions have come on. And we're going to turn off the pitos and inertial separators. Turn the autopilot master switch back off. Turn the radio master switch off now. Turn the EFIS off. Just trying to remember what we switched on when we got in. So the ignition can go to off, the gyros can all go back to off, the lights can all go to off, the generator can go to off, and we're golden duck. Very good. Okay, so to unlock the door, if memory serves, you press the button to unlock and then unlock the door, and then you can unfold the steps. And then you get to see your lovely aeroplane. I'll take a screenshot of that. Oh, well, there we got a fuel tanker doing donuts at the end of the car park. There we go. Aeroplane can be reused. Always a good epithet to take away with you. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go write the blog post up, and then I'm going to crash for the evening because this has been longer than I thought it was going to take. Thanks for watching if you've been following along, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care.